Hi, I'm George the Antique Nomad. Come with me as I wander the country in search of valuable vintage, amazing antiques, and cool collectibles. We'll buy, sell, and trade at antique malls, shops, and shows, estate sales, flea markets, thrift stores, anywhere people go to find really interesting things that just aren't made anymore. So come on, let's go! Hello everybody, it's George the Antique Nomad and welcome. This is my monthly recap of how it went on eBay. I do a bonus video once a month for my level 2 and level 3 members. I have a new level 3 membership and they get to see this first. It drops live while they're watching and it's where I list 20 different items on eBay that I think are interesting or have a good story behind them, are better brands, are things I think are interesting to speak in greater detail about. And we drop these to list on eBay while those folks are watching. And we run them as auctions for a 10-day period because it's an experiment to see how things are doing currently in the market for eBay items in the auction listings. And we also often have a buy it now price attached to them as well. So because of that, I sell the 20 items and then once a month, the following month, I have a video like this where I talk about how things went, what they sold for, what met our expectations, and what it says about the current market, both on eBay and for antiques and vintage in general. So without further ado, I'm going to show you the items that we had for sale in the bonus video for March. And we are going to see how they did. Here we go. All right, so the first we had was this Swarovski very cute spring-tailed mouse. It's the large one. The mouse was the first item that Swarovski did as a figural piece, and it is still one of the cuter ones, and so it's pretty well known. We put this one out at $40 starting price. It did sell for the starting price. I was hoping it might have gone for a little bit more because it was a larger size, but it was a satisfactory return for what it is. Swarovski crystal is beautiful. The items still sell well. The figures do well. But the market has been a little bit more saturated the last several years for these. A lot have come out of collections, and as a result, the price that we got seems like a reasonable price for what the item was. Next was the Royal Crown Derby Serpent, the snake in the paperweight in the box, and the reason it's called a paperweight is because it has the little metal tab on the bottom that has their logo on it, and that little plug comes out and you could fill it with sand and actually use it for a heavier weight if you wish to. The thing that was important about this is it had the box. People really do want the boxes on some of these more recent porcelain collectibles, and that's because the people who were collecting in that era knew to keep the box, so now it's expected that it will be with it and it's more valuable if it is. This one got a lot of bids. It went up to $72. I was happy with that price. That's very similar to what I sold the same piece to a collector in Florida about 3 years ago. And it is about what the going rate on these are. So I was happy with that because I think we started it out at $49. So it did run up to a respectable and retail price. As did the next item. I really thought this was very pretty, and it showed really well in the video because I was able to show the light on it where those feather pulls, in this picture they look kind of just sort of a uniform color, but there's a almost pinky lavender that comes out at certain angles, and it really showed well, and it showed that way well in person too. This ended up selling to one of my favorite viewers, and they're a couple, and they were at the Nurse Flipper camp, so I got to use this as an example when I spoke before the Nurse Flipper eBay camp, and then talk about how it was a wonderful piece, an early piece of Lundberg from early in Lundberg Studios Designs, and that it had sold, and then I was able to turn around and hand it to them and thank them for their purchase and not have to charge them shipping. So everybody was happy with that one. Ray-Bans. Well, I was happy with how this went. They only got 2 bids, but they bid up to about the value that they should be. Ray-Ban Wayfarers come and go in terms of being in and out of style, but because of that, they've been really good at keeping the brand going by doing special editions, using product placement, and this is a good example of that because in the 1990s, they sponsored a bunch of the Olympics, and so they had different specialty ones for Winter Olympics, for Summer Olympics, and these ones were associated with the 1996 Atlanta Olympic Games. And it had the original box, it had the original sleeve that the glasses themselves set in, so it was a pretty complete pack, and they went for right about where they should have at $150. I was pleased about that because, you know, some people say, I don't understand why you're doing auctions when you might get more if you listed it in a store and let it sit. Well, the reason I'm doing auctions is partly because I do a lot of volume of merchandise and I have to have things keep moving. I could frankly probably fill a small warehouse with the amount of merchandise that I have right now. And so it's important for me to keep things moving. It's important when I'm selling things for consigners that I'm able to turn things for them in a reasonable period of time. And also, I felt that if we started these items at a price that was the minimum acceptable retail price, that we could only go up from there and that we would be hitting the right prices on these. I never start anything at auction for less than I think it should go for, because I have lots of other ways to sell and I could use one of those instead. And I was happy with how this went. This very pretty bowl just got to its new owner in Pennsylvania, another viewer, and I was very happy that she was able to get it. She put in the first bid at the starting price of $225. It didn't get bid up from there, and I have to say one thing with starting these auctions at the price that you want is that it does scare a lot of bidders who might get caught in auction fever and actually bid things up, but it does keep back the number of people who are willing to bid, because $225 is a real commitment. It's saying, I really want this piece and I'm willing to pay the retail price. So she did, because she recognized that it was a good piece, and because being in Pennsylvania, she was familiar with the artist Andrew Wyeth, who did the designs for Royal Doulton in 1973 on this particular bowl. This was right about the time that he started his paintings of Helga, his muse, his neighbor's wife, perhaps his mistress. They were always very coy about that part, but this was from a time in Andrew Wyeth's history as a painter that in retrospect became a rather controversial time. So the timing and date and origin of this particular piece was all very fortunate in terms of the collector who ended up with this, because it's definitely of interest to people in that region who understand the story behind Andrew Wyeth. The next piece is a Caithness piece. This went to a viewer I really enjoy and who is a regular purchaser of mine, so I thank her for that. I was a little surprised because there was someone at the Nurse Flipper camp who really wanted this piece, saw it because I brought it as a prop because everything was closing the day I was at Nurse Flipper's eBay camp, and said, oh, I really want that. And I showed her where it was on eBay, and she planned to bid on it, and then she got distracted. I think they served dinner, and by the time dinner was over, the listing had closed. So because of that, it sold with one bid. And this is kind of a typical price that this particular piece sells for. They can go higher, but they don't necessarily. Paperweights are a funny part of the market right now. They're beautiful, they're art glass. There's a lot that were done in the 1980s and 90s as art pieces, but then there was a flood of reproductions and fakes and imports from China in particular, and that really has hurt the paperweight market. And because of that, I think people are still a little bit reticent to spend big money on paperweights for the most part. There are exceptions. I was hoping this would be one. It didn't turn out to be a real exception in terms of high value, but it went for a respectable price and to somebody I really enjoy. This also went to a viewer. One nice thing about doing these eBay listings and all of this video is that it lets the viewers know, and I attribute my success in selling these things on eBay to the fact that I do have a loyal viewer cadre who do look for the types of things I sell, because I mainly sell in the real world at shows. And so this is an opportunity for them to get things from me in the online world. This one is a very nice 1957 Philadelphia U.S. coin proof set. It did get 5 bids. It bid up right to the value it should. These pretty much close around $45 to $50 as a matter of course. And this one got 47, so I was pleased with that. This is such a cute piece, and 99 bucks was the minimum I was willing to accept, and it sold for exactly 99 bucks, and to another viewer who I really enjoy, so I was glad that it went to her. I think that it's possible this could have sold for another $20 or $30 had I been able to put the video of them coming out like a jack-in-the-box and barking on eBay. eBay is allowing posting of videos, but it is a bulky and difficult setup right now. I'm sure that it's improving. Possibly by next month we'll be able to actually use video excerpts, and I think that would have made a difference on a piece like this. I was still pleased that it did get the opening bid, and I was definitely pleased about who got it. And my client who I was selling it for was pleased because she got it when they ran a liquor store, and it was a whopping $16.95. So as far as she was concerned, getting $100 for it was a great deal, and it was a nice deal for the buyer as well. This piece went for $79, which is a pretty typical piece for the anemone. They are very pretty. Lalique did make a lot of these, but it just has a lot of pizzazz with the black dots on the area surrounding the center of the flower. I just thought this was a really fun looking piece. I like the anemone. Lalique is often selling in the $75 to $100 range for some of these more common and small pieces that they did. They did a lot of these as starter pieces to get people interested and hooked into the Lalique name. But of course, Lalique is a luxury brand, and it is a very, very high-end glass maker. And the things that they had in their store on Rodeo Drive, when I went, for example, they had vases that were $3,000 to $6,000 brand new. So this is just something to get people interested, and for people who are of perhaps more modest means to be able to say they have a piece of Lalique. It's a very cute piece, and I'm glad that somebody else thought so too. And it did go for $79, which was right at the acceptable level of pricing on eBay for me. This piece here also got 1 bid, priced at the, well, right about the minimum of what I was willing to accept for it. I frankly would have liked to have seen this price higher. This was a piece that I purchased from an estate in Tampa, and had I sold it at a show, I would have honestly expected to have gotten about $30 more than this. So I can't say that the price it went for was a price that I was overjoyed to get, but again, this is part of the chance you take with eBay and auctions, and the last few mesh purses and bags that I've sold on eBay have actually done very well and sold for quite a bit more than this. I thought this was a really great pattern, but I realized looking at it that it's also a very specific pattern, and that some of the other pieces that were maybe jollier colors or a little less formal, maybe the fact that it looked more like a Turkish carpet was actually a negative for the buyers who happened to be on eBay at that point. I think in a different time and place this could have gone for more money, but that's all right. That's part of why we do this, is to see what we can do in the marketplace, and I did do well on the first two, and this was satisfactory, but I would have liked to have seen it go closer to $85 to $100. The Weller Woodcraft, this one went for $57.99. It did get 5 bids. I think we started it at $49. I felt it would sell somewhere between $50 and $75. Ideally, it would have gone closer to the 75 mark, but it did get some action. It's a really beautiful piece. I think the person who got it is going to be very happy with it. We've certainly had some slow shipping from the post office. A lot of things are just arriving to people now. But this is a really pretty piece, and I have to say that Weller, it's just so nicely formed. The hand painting is really great. I think the colors on this were really nice. So I felt like it was a good deal for somebody, but it was in the ballpark. This was another piece that I had purchased and owned personally, and I paid right because I knew that the market was as it is now. This is from their middle period of production where they're still doing a lot of hand painting, but the forms are more molded forms as opposed to hand thrown. The next item that sold was the Yadro number 4898 Accordion Boy. It sold for the minimum bid of $29, and well, I have to say that that's not an exciting result. It is a pretty typical eBay result for this piece without the box, because this is one of the most common Yadro pieces that they made, and it is one that is new enough in the production that people, especially Yadro collectors, really want the original box on the pieces made after the 1974 period, where they changed the mark to the mark that they have on this one, which I can show you there. And so it's not terribly surprising that it didn't do better, but it was a little disappointing. I was hopeful that it might actually hit more in the $39 to $45 range. I typically ask $39 to $45 for these in my eBay. I typically ask $39 to $45 for these in my online. Oh, God. Okay, let's start this all over again. The next item we see is the Yadro number 4898 Accordion Boy, and it sold for the minimum asking opening bid of $29. That's not a terribly exciting result, but it is a pretty typical eBay result for this piece because it is one of the most common pieces that Yadro made, and this one did not have the box. The Yadro collectors in particular, especially if you're dealing with a piece with this mark, which I believe came out in 1974, if it's got this mark, they expect it to have the original box. And since this guy didn't, he went for the initial opening bid of $29. If I had him at a real world show, I would have hoped to have gotten about $40 for him, but eBay is eBay, and you have to take into account that the buyer paid shipping. So in their checkbook, they paid $37.50, which is close to what I would expect to sell this for in the real world. And that is one thing about eBay. If you're selling something that is fairly common that people see a lot, you have to take into account that you're probably selling it at a discount for what you could sell it for in a real world situation. That's why real world selling is still viable, is because shipping is getting more expensive and more difficult on more items. And as a result, people are very happy to pay a little bit more in the real world because they can just take it home. They don't have to hope it gets to them, hope it isn't broken, and hope that everything went fine. This piece, on the other hand, got 6 bids and did right about where I had hoped it would at $36, because this one is a real one from 1938, not the reproduction ones that you see that sell for about half this price. So I was pleased with the result on this. It is just a little thing, but it was done by the Coca-Cola bottlers for a convention in Louisiana in 1938, and it sold just like it should have and made someone very happy. This, I thought, did better than they usually do. I was very pleased it went for the $24 that I was asking. That's what I would have expected in the real world without shipping. I would have expected this to sell for about $24. This is the Homer Lachlan Little Orphan Annie mug that was done in 1932 or 33, and you can see that it's got the company name for the makers of Ovaltine on the bottom. They did a couple of different child's mugs in this period, and this one is one of the more popular ones. So I thought $24 was a great price to get for it, and it sold right away. This also sold for the opening bid. Actually, this was sold at Buy It Now. Little Orphan Annie was too. I do have Buy It Now on a lot of these, and both of these children's pieces sold for the Buy It Now price right away. $20. This was very cute. I'll show you some of the interior. If you could sell these based on the interior, they're a lot more fun. Look at Santa Claus. Look at that wonderful railroad and the old automobile. This was done around 1910. It was in complete and perfect condition as far as intactness, but you can tell it was worn and maybe chewed on, as you see the baby doing in the high chair there. I think it's very funny. Let's click on this where it says that they can even chew the pages and it will be fine. Well, because it was a little more worn on the outside, I didn't expect to get more than this price. And in fact, I think I pushed the price just a little bit over what these typically fetch. And it got it because I knew if we put the right photos in that somebody would see how great this was. And they did. So that made me happy. This was one of the very first things to sell. And this was a nice surprise for me. I was able to do some research and determine that this is one of Rinconada's pieces that is in fact retired. And that makes a difference in value. Because it's a retired piece, it was snapped up immediately by someone who really likes these fish. And I was very happy that it went for the Buy It Now of $39, which to me was peak value for this. But someday it will probably be worth more. So I think they might have gotten a good future investment. And my other fish sold equally fast. The Besswick multicolored fish dish from the 1950s, and it sold for the $39 initial Buy It Now price. I was really pleased with that too. I had not seen these sell for as much as this, but I had not seen one before, and I thought it was really great. Well painted, good color, both the impressed and the ink stamp on it. So for a Besswick collector or a fish collector, I thought it just had a lot going for it. And so I priced it like I believed in it. And sometimes when you do that, the people who buy it believe in it too, and they were happy to pay what I thought was a fair price for the piece. Very pleased that that found a new home. And then there was this. I got one of these when I was with Jocelyn, a crazy lamp lady, in Pennsylvania shopping, and then I went to a thrift store in Kentucky and found this version of it. It turns out these have a name. A viewer told me after I sold this one that they are called Magic Flip-Flop hats, and that was their official name back in the 1970s when these first came out. The one I bought with Jocelyn and Drew is just a nice blue color. This one actually is really fancy because it has a palm tree, and on the back, see how it looks like a paper vase when it's just folded down. On the back it has this nice cloud, and there it is on my head. I just thought this was a lot of fun. I figured that people would enjoy seeing me put it on and that would drive people to the site to look at it. And boy, it sure did, because it got 12 bids. There weren't any of these on eBay. And like I like to say, have the cheapest one, the best one, or the only one. This was the only one. And so it went up. After the fact, I had a few viewers, including the one who told me it was a Magic Flip-Flop hat, say, wow, you got a really good price for it. We usually only get about $25 for those. So I thought that $32 was a perfectly fair price. I mean, paper clothing can go for a lot of money, and some of it can go for really high dollars, particularly if the paper dresses have the yellow pages or the Campbell's Soup Andy Warhol graphic on it. So anyhow, I was very happy to see this sell for the $32 and that it got a lot of action, and I just thought it was fun. I'd love to see what the person who got it looks like wearing it. And that brings us to the final two items. Now, one of them I can't show you. It was a nice little patch from Odessa in the Ukraine before the unpleasantry started. It actually was done about 1980, this little patch, and I listed it. It sold for the Buy It Now price of $5, which wasn't a lot, but it was, I thought, very fair for the piece, which I paid very little for. And then, unfortunately, the woman who bought it, her PayPal was not acting properly, and eBay canceled the transaction. And when they cancel it, it just goes poof into the vapor, and I was not able to bring it back up to show you. However, I was able to correct that for her, and she is getting the patch. So it did sell. The only thing in this listing that didn't sell was this beautiful set of Hollycraft. And I have to say I was a little bit surprised by that. But again, this is a situation where I was not willing to start it for less than what I thought it was worth, which was $145. Now, one thing you could do on eBay with things like this, not many people do it anymore because you have to pay for it. And if it doesn't sell, you still pay the fee. But I could have started this at a very low starting bid and then put a reserve on it. The reason you might do that is because you have something that you feel will bid up, but you want to make sure you get your money for it, but you want to get more bidders involved. And sometimes when you start the bid at what you want for something, it scares some bidders off who might get caught up in the piece and then decide they really want it and would be happy to pay that price once they started bidding. So I may try a few reserves in next month's video. In the meantime, I'm not terribly concerned because it's a beautiful set. I do believe it will sell for this price. I have some pretty serious buyers at my next show in Spokane, Washington, and that is where I plan to take it. Well, that brings us to the conclusion of what the things in the March video on eBay sold for. I thank you very much for watching. I hope this was edifying. We do these bonus videos in part to treat our members and our viewers to extra content and extra information about these items, but we also do it because we do want to sell these items and see how they're selling in the current eBay marketplace. We will have 20 new items. In fact, I've just set them aside for our upcoming level 2/level 3 member bonus video. If you are a level 2 or level 3 member, please do look in the membership tab on my homepage so that you're able to tell when that's going to come out. If you're not a level 2 or level 3 member and you'd like to have the first option on buying these things, we eventually release this so everybody has a chance, but the level 2 and 3 members get first chance, and oftentimes they buy things right away, so they're not available by the time everyone else gets to them. So if you're interested in those membership packages, do look under the join button if you see that on the screen, or go down into the description of any video and click on memberships in the links, and you'll be able to find out more about that. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you with the April list of 20 items that we will be selling, and we've got some good ones, so look for that soon. In the meantime, we'll see you there or somewhere else from the fascinating world of antiques and vintage. Bye for now. Thanks for joining me again in the fun and fascinating antique community, here where online meets the real world. Please click the subscribe button below. Click the bell to be notified when new videos upload. Leave a comment below and hit thumbs up to like this video. Links to our online social media and our items for sale are in the description. This is George at the Antique Nomad. Bye for now.